Hello and welcome to Angles and Acid, where we learn things maths and science. In today's video we're going to look at prime numbers. So what are prime numbers? Well, basically prime numbers are sort of the building blocks that everyone refers to in maths, where it only has two factors for prime numbers. You can divide it by itself or you can divide it by 1. So not very useful divisors. So that's basically it. So if you're looking at a number and there are no divisors besides itself and the number 1, then you're probably looking at a prime. For everything else, we call them composite numbers. So just got some text here about composite numbers. They're basically everything that has more than 2, which means that you have more than itself and more than 1. So there is a little gotcha that you got to be aware of, and that is the number 0 and the number 1. They're not considered to be primes. So you just got to keep that in mind. Don't go putting that in as one of your answers if you're asked about prime numbers. They're just sort of assumed not to be. I've got some numbers here from like 1 to about 14. And we're just basically going to look at which ones are primes and which ones are composite numbers. So if my brush is working here, is 1 prime? No, by the exception to the rule we just had earlier, it's not a prime. So this is not a prime. 2, is that a prime? Well, it's divisible by 2, but that's itself. So it's actually prime, which confuses some people. Like you can only divide it by itself or number 1. So it's technically prime. What about number 3? It's odd. It's quite small. You can't really divide it by anything besides itself and the number 1. So that is a prime. 4, well, I can divide it by 2, I can divide it by 4, and I can divide it by 1. So that's more than 2 factors. So this one here is not prime, it's technically a composite number. 5, that one's prime as well because it doesn't have anything other divisors besides itself and the number 1. 6, well, I can divide it by 1, I can divide it by 2, I can divide it by 3, and I can divide it by itself. So that's definitely more than 2 factors, so this one here is definitely not prime. 7 is prime. 8, well, I can divide that by 1, 2, 4, and itself. So that's many factors there. So the number 8 is definitely not prime. 9, well, that's just 3 times 3. So that has factors. You can also divide it by 1. You can divide it by itself. So 9 is also not a prime. 10, well, I got 1, 2, 5, and obviously 10 itself. So that's many factors. 11 is prime. Nothing really can multiply together to give you 11. 12, that one's got lots of factors. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and itself. So that's quite a lot of factors. So clearly 12 is not a prime. 13, pretty sure 13, you can't divide it by anything. 14, obviously you got itself, you got 7, and you've got 1 and 2. So 14 is not prime. So when I'm looking through number sequence, basically I ask myself, is this number sort of a even number? Pretty much off the bat, everything except for 2. All other even numbers. No restart. Windows updates. Basically, I'm looking at any number that's even, except for the number 2. I'd basically assume they're not prime because they can be divided by 2. Definition of an even number. So that's it. Pretty short, simple video. I will catch you in the next video where I'm talking about, I've forgotten, but I'll leave a little picture right here for you to click on and it'll take you to the next video. Thanks guys. Bye.